Hey everybody, it's Aidan here once again and welcome back to rFactor2 as we're getting a little bit educational again. Now today we're looking at front wheel drive and rear wheel drive racing cars and how they both function on a racetrack compared to the roads. And we're going to demonstrate both types of car using two BTCC cars, the Ford Focus and the BMW 1 Series. The Focus is front wheel drive and the BMW is typical German rear wheel drive. Now on the roads, if you live in the UK or the rest of Europe, unless you have a BMW, Mercedes or similar, you're going to have a front wheel drive car. The European Union and their NCAP safety testing scheme regards them as being safer due to all the weight being over the front axle and the fact that front wheel drives pull the car along as opposed to being pushed along by the rear wheels like you find in your hot BMWs. Let's just say that in the recent snowy weather we had in the UK, my front wheel drive Vauxhall Astra was able to get to places that the BMW and Audi Brigade couldn't. That, and I actually know how to drive in snow and ice, but that's by the by. Of course, a Porsche 911 with its rear wheel drive and having the engine over the rear wheels is going to have a slight advantage over its rear drive front engine cousins, but still a front wheel drive car will get you better uphill in a snowy weather. Now when it comes to racing, the differences are about the same as Mayweather and McGregor. In a rear wheel drive car, it's generally accepted that mid-corner the rear wheels do the turning and the front wheels do the slowing down. This is the way it works. When you're at the limit of tyres in the corner, if you hit the loud pedal, the rear tyres will lose grip because they can't take much more cotton. The front tyres haven't got any extra load on them, and all the grip they would normally have is still there, so that causes the rear end to rotate and gives you beautiful oversteer. A little bit better than that, obviously. On the other hand, if you back off the gas, and that allows the front end to bite and cause the front end to point more inwards. Now obviously you have to balance all of this so you don't get the opposite, understeer. Stomping on the gas in something like a Miata on the edge of grip will kill you, but in a front wheel drive car, it will save you. Now if you're used to rear wheel drive, that is a very, very hard habit to break. Now looking at the front wheel drive Focus on the other hand, all the action is happening at the front. The front wheels are doing everything. Braking, steering, acceleration, and the rear tyres, well, they're just along for the ride. So what we have to do in terms of setup is alter the spring rate, camber and tyre pressure to stop them being dragged along and actually do something in a corner. Now in a road car we don't want this to happen because people will be killed to death, but the fact remains that the rear tyres in front wheel drive cars are worse than that 28-year-old that just will not move out of his parents' basement. In fact, at the VEC 24 Hours of Le Mans this year, G&S Endurance, who ran a front-wheel drive Nissan LMP1, made the rear tyres last the full 24 hours. Because they weren't doing anything. The front tyres did all the work, even with the rear end being set up to actually simulate something happening. So, how does this all work on track? Well, we'll take the BMW and the Focus to a small airfield and then we'll do some time-lapse to see which can get round the fastest. Now, I'm expecting the front-wheel drive car to be faster out of tighter corners and the rear-wheel drive car to be faster out of faster corners. So, let's get down to Dunsfold, because this one should be quite interesting. Alright, so here we go in the Ford Focus. We're just going to come out of the pit lane here. And since we don't need to obey any speed limit rules, we'll just get on with it. So, I've left the tyre temperatures on so you can see what's going on here. As we come into turn 1, you'll notice that the rear tyres are doing virtually nothing, because the front tyres are doing all the pulling, and braking, and turning. So if I come into Chicago here, and then put my foot down, the car just understeers straight off the track. And while the front tyres are getting warm, the rear tyres aren't. So coming up into Hammerhead now. Massive lockup. Now it should get some decent pull off here. Yeah, it's okay. Let's see how that happens in the BMW though. Follow through. A lot of understeer there. Tyre wall, cut the corner. Hit the apex at second to last corner, and Gambon. Just getting used to the car. Well, there's the understeer again. Can't really hit the power halfway through the corner like you can in a rear-wheel drive car. It's a very hard habit to break. hadn't felt the back end kick out, so I booted it. Can't put the power down. It's almost like in the front-wheel drive car, you have to put the power down at the exit of the corner as opposed to the apex of the corner. We did alright there. Lift off for the follow-through. Let's do another lap. Should have an alright feel of how the car is. Best thing I can say to describe it is understeer. You can probably hear my steering wheel juddering from the understeer. Look at that, 300 degrees worth of tyre wear. Just wants to understeer. I'm doing this deliberately, but it's just as a guide to show you how different the cars behave. Totally wrong line through there. Flat spotted the hell out of the tyres as well. Understeer. And across the line. Alright, let's get into the BMW. Let's see how that behaves in the different corners of this test track. And here we are in Jack Goff's 2016 BMW 1 Series. Get that speed limiter off. Now we should see the opposite if we try to power out halfway through a corner. Being rear-wheel drive, the car will want to oversteer on us. We'll try it on the exit of Chicago, I think. Alright, here we go. Onto the apex, and then if we boot it, there we go. There's the oversteer. That's what I mean about if you try to get the power down, you're just going to oversteer. But if you notice, the tyres are wearing, or heating up, about evenly now. Bit of a lock up into the hammerhead. But we can feed the power on a lot sooner in this car than we could in the Ford. And the overall balance of the car is a lot more neutral. Oops. You can probably tell I'm a lot more used to driving rear-wheel drive cars than I am over front-wheel drive cars. Well, quickly anyway. Seeing as I drive a front-wheel drive car in real life, but I've never driven it in this manner. So we get a bit of oversteer. Oversteer is definitely better. It's definitely a lot more fun. That was deliberate. Power slide. Behave. But I can just turn into here. Car's a lot more planted than it was. Oops. Definitely the hardest part of the track, this bit. What gear do I need to be in? Well, you can see how this behaves now. I've sort of exaggerated a little bit. So you can see the different extremes of what happens if you try to overdrive each particular type of car. I must say I'm enjoying this car more than I was enjoying the Focus. Well, that wasn't supposed to happen, but let's go back to showroom view and get some final thoughts before we do the one-lap shootout. So I hope that little segment sort of explains it a little bit for you, in the fact that in a front-wheel drive car you have to put the power on the exit of the corner rather than feeding it on mid-corner like you would in a rear-wheel drive car. And like I said in the bit before, the driving segment there, it's a very, very hard habit to break if you're like me and used to rear-wheel drive cars, you know, V8 supercars, Formula 1 cars, that sort of thing. So we're going to take both cars back to the track now, and we're going to see which is the fastest, and that, of course, means handing things over to a tame racing driver. Me! Although I wouldn't call myself tame. But anyway, let's get back onto the track. Alright, so here's the BMW, the race build, and he's off! A little bit of a bog there from Jack Goff's ISG Rewards Club BMW there, as he comes down to do the first pass of the lap. Coming into the first corner now. Oh, that's a shot that's familiar to millions of people around the world, isn't there? As he goes through turn one, car's very balanced, gets on the power, runs out wide. That's very good driving there from the... it's not the Stig, is it? Who is it? As he comes through Chicago. And once again, the car just looks very, very planted. Gets on the power. Oh, and no music because of the fact that the BMW doesn't have a stereo. Into the hammerhead, brakes hard, avoids locking the rears up, and as the car gets a little bit wobbly as he comes through the hammerhead, keeps it in the white lines, and he's on the power once again. Into follow through now, and not much of a lift, quite a bit of body roll there, the suspension being quite soft as he goes through the tyre wall, hits the grass on the inside. Into second to last corner now, hard on the brakes, no lockup, a little bit of a wobble. Kiss the apex on the inside, avoid the curb on the outside, and finally into Gambon. He finally gets it round, and he's across the line. And now the turn of the Ford Focus. He's a little bit far back off the start line, but he finally gets it into second gear. What a beautiful car this car is, metallic blue. But anyway, enough of the car. Let's see how it does on the lap. Let's get him into turn one. A little bit of inside locking, but he manages to get through the first corner. No dramas. Lets the car run wide using all the track. Now into Chicago. Will this be a test of the car's steering abilities? He seems to be through okay. Not much understeer. And once again, we have no stereo in the car, so no music. Now braking for the hammerhead. This is going to be the real test of the car's turning ability. Takes a shallower line through there, runs it out to the white line. That's torque turning the car, but he's gone a little bit wide. Follow through now. Cuts the red and white a little bit. That's not going to be too much of a problem. Where's he going? Oh, I thought he was going to hit the tyre wall, but he's through. That's very quick. Coming into the second to last corner now. Hard on the brakes. Bit of oversteer, but he manages to power out of that. That's exactly what you should do in a front-wheel drive car. Gets a bit onto the grass, through Gambon, and across the line. Okay, so we need to find out how fast they both went round the track. And Andrew Jordan's Ford Focus did it, with the mistakes, in 1:16.4. Now, the BMW also did it in 1 minute 16, but did it in 1 minute 16.5. Really good, considering that the BTCC does a lot of homologation to make sure that all the cars are roughly the same, and it's more down to driver and setup than it is down to one team spending a absolute ton of cash on stuff. So that's the end of this video. I hope it's been interesting for you. I've basically just done this on a whim. I haven't really scripted this or anything at all. So if you want to see more like this, then be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you like the video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button as well, so I know that you enjoy this kind of thing. And until next time, I've been Aidan Millward. Have a great day wherever you live in the world, and I'll see you again very, very soon. Goodbye.